and I kept finding this little symbol next to women in his line from 400, 500 years ago, and it was a fleur de lis. And I thought, well, what is that? And so I would open it up, it's a little icon, and it says this woman was a daughter of the king. And I went, well, what is a daughter of the king? So I start researching this, and I am just floored that not only do I not know about this, but I asked my husband, I asked my mother-in-law, they're like, we've never heard of that.
Welcome to this lovely live special episode for the Reading Well. My name is Heather Vickery. I'm actually a transformation coach, podcaster, speaker, author, but I am a book fanatic. I love reading, and I decided since every conversation I have ends up with, well, what are you reading in a book recommendation? I started the Reading Well, and it's a little bit of a different approach. I don't like do book reviews like where I go, this is the entire plot and story of this book. I kind of say, this book made me feel this way, or I learned this, or I did
That's
that.
perfect.
Thank you for that, Carrie. I appreciate that. But we only have 14 subscribers, and Carrie's one. So if you like books, it'd be super cool if you subscribe. But one of the things that I promised I wanted to do was interview authors, especially indie authors or newer authors, which you are not, Carrie, and just talk about the books and this process and this journey and help kind of grow the community.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have you introduce yourself, and then I'll share an interesting recent story about you. But go ahead and tell everybody
Okay.
who you are.
Great. I'm Carrie Chappett, and I am on Substack as Badass Women in History. Actually, that's kind of all of my socials are Badass Women in History. And fun fact, so Heather and I have been following each other on social for years. I mean, like back in the
Years.
early days of TikTok, I think we
Yep.
connected. And this is the first time that we've actually spoken.
I
And it's so I was
know.
really excited for this. But I have been writing or publishing. I've been writing my whole life, but I've been publishing for a little short of 10 years now. My seventh book just released a few weeks ago called The Secret Courtesan. And I write stories of women in history with lots of adventure. And I always dabble a little bit with a little mystical magic element as well.
I love that. First of all, mystical, magical, you've got me. I struggle with fantasy
Mhm.
because I don't have enough extra brain power to be able to be in a whole new world that I have to picture in my head.
Mhm.
And I know people who love fantasy, that's what they love about it. Like they're like, this world sucks. I want to go to a
Escapist.
different one.
Yeah.
So I get
Yeah.
I get both, but a little magical realism, a little mystical.
Mhm.
I'm
That's my
super
vibe
into
too.
like give
Yeah.
me magic in my real world, and like it makes me feel hopeful. But yeah, so no, Carrie, we have for a long time, and you left TikTok. Did you leave the first time that
I
it quote unquote
left
shut down?
a year, yes, right after that, a year ago, January, as soon as they put in a like marketing plug or PR plug for
For
the
Trump.
administration, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
out.
I
Yeah.
have that screenshot. I was like, I need to remember this. Thanks to President Trump. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I can't say why exactly I haven't quit TikTok other than I am still connected with a lot of my activist friends, and it's where I get a lot of my book content. But
Yeah.
I'm watching it very closely. If the censorship becomes even worse or more obvious than which I posted this morning. I'm like, it's a good thing I'm not trying to make money off of TikTok because these 40 views I've gotten on my last 5 videos would not be doing it. But so I was glad to see you on Substack. It took me a long time to get here. Now I've only been on Substack for I don't want to 6, 8 months now.
It's fairly
And
new for me as well. Yeah.
yeah, and I was so excited to reconnect. And then so the backstory is I had your book, Daughter of the King, don't take this personal. I buy books, but I don't always read the books I
Oh,
buy because
same.
I read the books that come from the library because they have to go back. And so books
Sure.
sit on my shelf for a long time. But what I did was I put it in the queue to be randomly selected for my book club, which is a
Oh, fun.
TikTok based book club. And it got picked, and I was so excited. I was like, "Oh, I'm actually going to sit and make myself read this book," and I loved it. And I don't have it. I have the two follow up books, but I
Oh,
don't have Daughter of the King because I loaned it to my neighbor. Um, I I'm so fascinated by your process of telling stories, kind of hidden women in history, right? Like people we don't know about. I didn't know anything about. And I'll let you describe the premise of what these stories are about, because I
Mhm.
didn't even know that this existed as a real thing in history. Go ahead and talk about the book and the series and what the
Yeah,
catalyst was.
it's called the Define the Crown series, and I had the exact same experience when I was researching. So I had um, I had written my first book, years ago, and I was trying to just get into genealogy a little bit. My husband's family is French Canadian. He's 100% French Canadian. And when I asked his mom where they came from in France, she's like, I don't know. We've been in Quebec for 300 years. I don't know. And I thought it would be a fun little project to be like, let's find where they are from in France. And the records are impeccable. If anyone is French Canadian, go look because
That's
it's just like
cool.
laid out for you. It's so easy to follow. And I was able to follow him back, his family back hundreds of years. And I kept finding this little symbol next to women in his line from 400, 500 years ago, and it was a fleur de lis. And I thought, well, what is that? And so I would open it up, it's a little icon, and it says this one was a daughter of the king. And I went, well, what is a daughter of the king? So I start researching this, and I am just floored that not only do I not know about this, but I asked my husband, I asked my mother-in-law, they're like, we've never heard of that. And basically it was a program by the King of France back in the 1660s. And they had the colony of Canada, and they were just struggling. They needed people there, they needed women there because there were plenty of men that were settling and no women. And so the king created this sort of progressive program instead of just like rounding women up and throwing them on a boat and forcing them to do it. He went around to the poorest areas of France, and he offered these women like the opportunity of a lifetime and said, you don't have a whole lot of prospects here. How about you go to Canada? We'll give you money, we'll give you passage, we'll give you protection by the king,
Give you
um,
clothing, like,
clothing, like a
yeah.
whole makings of a farm, anything you need to start your life. And so it's this incredible opportunity, a huge risk, but many people did take this risk. And they sailed across the world and landed in Canada. They live with the nuns. And what's so amazing about this is that they set up kind of a 17th century speed dating for these
They
women.
did. They did.
I mean, for real. I was like reading this going like, what? And the women held interviews like they were in a barn, and all of these settlers came through, and the women interviewed them one after another, like in a line. And when they found one that they thought, hey, I could marry this guy, kind of flagged the guy in the corner, and they went and they got married in the back of the barn. But so the women were choosing the men, which is kind of incredible in the 1600s.
Yeah.
And this was completely under the approval of the king, and the colony was completely run by the Catholic Church. The women chose the men, and then they were married by a notary, not even in the church. So they had a civil marriage where the women could separate and end the marriage if they wanted, if they ever felt unsafe. So
Which
in a
is why
way,
they did it through like
the
legality
notary.
and not church, the notary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then at some
Okay.
point they could get married in the church when they wanted to kind of solidify that, yes, I am married. So, and then they got paid and got a farm. Once they got married, they got paid for my babies they had. And like 800 women did this program over 10 years ish. And if you were French Canadian and of ancestry, you were almost guaranteed to be descended from one of these women.
That is incredible. I just didn't know anything about it, but I'm glad that I'm not there's not like that. There are plenty of gaps in my historical
Oh, all of
education,
us.
but
Same.
yeah, but your book, which is historical fiction, it is fiction based on what you
Yeah.
learned about this. I found it was a really interesting time in the world to
Yeah.
be reading this book because the main character is evading religious persecution
Yes.
and coming to New France, Canada,
In France. Yeah.
um, which was, as you said, like a completely Catholic thing.
Mhm.
It was interesting when we're facing so much forced religion on us right now. I mean, you wrote this, but when did you write the first book?
It was pre-COVID. It was like 2019, I want to say.
Yeah.
18, 19.
So that shit was starting then. but
Mhm.
now it's like crazy. Like as you continue your writing and you're writing about these women, how like what's that process like for you when we are really, I feel like, repeating history
Mhm.
in this terrifying way? Like what goes through your mind?
Rage.
Fair.
I mean, that's kind of the basis of why I write what I do is it's a mix of rage and sad excuse me, sadness because I read about these women that did incredible things and they're just completely erased. And I, as a history nerd who have spent years and years and years reading about history, don't know about it. So I have rage over that. And then I have just really deep sadness that women don't get the
Yeah.
full aspect of what our history looks like. And all of that plays into why I write these stories. But then once I write them, I really check out of whatever's happening in our world, or I don't make any conscious connection to anything.
Interesting.
And writing Daughter of the King, you're right that during Trump's first term I was angry, but there wasn't a whole lot of like trad wife thing happening then. There
It's
wasn't.
so much more now.
It's so
Yeah.
much more now, and so it's interesting how this book, as you said, it pulls in some modern themes. And the only thing that I was thinking is that there are a few documented cases of women who were Protestant and had to convert to Catholicism, and that to me was a perfect way to write a character. It's like fish out of
Yeah.
water from day one, and you're told that your religion is wrong. And if you want this opportunity and not to be beaten to death on the street, this is what you have to do. And I kind of, that really hit me as an
Hmm.
amazing thing to explore. Yeah, and I definitely check out from the real world and I just write the story that comes to me. But there's always a little bit of a simmering frustration just because of living in the world that we do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was interesting to read. And the way I describe, I loved the book. Um,
You know,
but I didn't, it wasn't an easy read for
no.
me. Your writing is easy. Your writing flows beautifully. Like you're clearly gifted. And I'll be super transparent and saying that that is just not true for all indie authors. And so I
Mm,
kind of go into an indie book like, what are we gonna do
you
here?
never
But
know.
I
Yeah.
loved it. But I mean, I think I read it fairly quick for most people. It took me about 2 weeks, but I had to really go slow and I had to take breaks because it was really heavy
Yeah.
content. And I don't want to blow anything for anybody who loves good historical fiction and loves strong-willed, badass women. You really, really should read this book. But I think it was the first time in ever in my reading history, and I read a lot, that I actively wanted a character to die.
James.
Yes! I'm texting my book club house. I was like, "What am I doing sitting here wanting this character who we had loved for so much of the book?" I'm
Mhm.
like, "No, he should just die." Like she and but of course he doesn't. That's one of the premises of the two follow-up books.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know how you did that, Carrie. Like that's amazing writing skill to like make me feel that much.
Okay. That was not intentional. I'm going to give you a secret. When I first wrote this, I wanted it to be this epic Outlander style romance that went on for potentially a few books. I didn't know at the time. And halfway through, it didn't feel right. It felt like there's a side of him that I need to explore. So he got roughened up a little bit as I went through revisions, and then when she meets another character in Canada, that felt right there. It felt like it kind of wrote
Yeah.
itself. And so my revisions ended up really changing the story. So that could be why you kind of felt something for him. And I also really think that that's important to show how many good people get caught up in the wrong stuff and
Absolutely.
and justify the things that they do out of loyalty, out of their own personal issues, whatever. I liked writing that side of him.
I think it was a brilliant edit because it did show his shift, but also hers. Like we are different people.
Yeah.
When we go through these major life experiences, we are different and we have different needs and we have different expectations. And so but I just want to commend you on writing that so well that it shocked me. It was like notable. Like the moment where I was like, oh my God, I want him to die. Let's chat about a little. You said you've always been a writer, but you've been you've published author
Yeah.
for did you I think you said 10 years. What was the catalyst of that? Like what took you from being somebody who writes to somebody who's like, I'm gonna publish? And did you try to do trad publishing? Did you ever even go that route, or were you always just like,
Um, so, um, did we freeze? Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, there we
Can you
go.
hear me? Oh,
Nope, we
okay.
were there.
Sorry.
There was just a
Okay.
glitch. It's fine. So this series is actually with a publisher. It's with a small
Oh, is
press.
it? I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
it's all
didn't
right.
mean to. Okay.
I did have two indie books when I first started out. But I've been with small press most of the time.
Well,
And
congratulations. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
oh,
to
it's totally fine. I mean, I'm still kind of indie, right? Like,
get to do
um,
your own marketing.
I know, right? It's like a full-time job. Um, I wanted to be a writer when I was 12. I wrote my first short story. And because, that was back in the late 80s, and we like got a computer in our house. It was a big deal. And I was like, ooh, what is this? And it was the black screen with the green writing. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah. I recall.
and I
The
got to like play
DOS.
around with it. Yes. And it was just me and the computer. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Anyways, and so I kind of snuck onto it every day and started writing. And I really fell in love with it. And my parents were like, well, you won't be doing that. You need to find a career. That's not a career. It was parents were very practical. My dad was an immigrant. It was very much like you play by the rules of the system, you get a solid career, and writing's not going to be it. So I kind of just went, okay, and then I got into college and I let my dad choose my major. I wanted to major in English at this point, and he said no. Actually, I wanted to major in English and history, and he said no. And he was a history teacher, but he
Because
basically
it's.
thought if you're not going to teach, what's the point? And I really kind of mentally said goodbye to my dream just right then. Like
Oh, that hurts my
my dream,
heart.
it was, and this is something that's taken me honestly until this last year. I don't think I had realized how desperately this has affected my life. It was a
Yeah.
huge growth moment for me, unraveling all of this stuff. So, my dad died 2 years after that when I was in college, and I have spent 20 years living out his dream. He's been gone for 2 decades, and I was still living out his dream. So, by the time I hit 40, I was working my tail off in my career in healthcare, and I had my first baby, and I fell apart. I said, I cannot do this. I can't throw my entire life into this career that I never wanted, that I've forced myself to be good at, to thrive in, to support my family off of,
Mm.
and then I have this little baby, and I got to go to work and bleed into my work. I'm a physical therapist, and so I was treating sick people. Like I had to emotionally put myself in it. Then I'd get home and I'd look at my baby and be like, I don't have a whole lot left for you, and I hate this. I hate every second of this. So it totally fell apart. And my second baby had massive, well, both. I had postpartum depression, all this stuff going on. And it was really like my life kind of fracturing and me saying, I can't live someone else's life anymore. So we sold everything we owned in California and where we're from, and we moved to Montana, having never been there before. And on our California
Wow.
road tires, we sold everything we owned, and we went to the just middle of the snow. And it was honestly the best thing of my whole life because I stayed home with my kids. I just could breathe for a minute and look
Mm.
at my life. And I remember the moment I was watching them nap, and it's like these long winters, right? And the house was clean, bills are paid. I had my coffee, and I was literally like, what do I do? What do I have for me? And I remember watching my
Yes.
littlest one sleep and thinking, not only do I need to have something for me, but also how can I tell her, both of them, to go follow their dreams and live their life and live big
If
and
I don't.
boldly if I don't? I
Been there,
think
done that,
most
sister.
I think most moms have that moment where you're like, "Oh, I am now looking really deeply at my life and something is very wrong."
Yeah.
And I said, "All right, what do I want?" That day, I walked downstairs And I had attempted writing many times secretly. I told no one. And I wrote my first attempt at a manuscript 15 years before that. And I hid it on my hard drive and never looked at it again. So I walked
Wow.
downstairs and I said, the one thing you've always wanted to do is writing. It was like that voice finally had a microphone. And I told myself, if that project, I even hid it under a code word so that no one would open it. Yeah, I was so shoving this dream down so hard with all my might. And I told myself, if that's still on my hard drive after 15 years and after multiple computers, I still don't know how it could possibly be there. I said that this is a sign that you're meant to do this. And it was there. And I picked it back up and I read it. And I don't think I've gone one day since then without some version of working on writing.
Oh, that gives me chills. I
It
love
was
that.
transformative. And then, really, up in the last year or two, really realizing how hard I have lived for other people and looking back
Mhm.
and thinking it took me until 40 to decide my life for me. That's insane. And all of these things that I just didn't want to look at, didn't, for whatever reason. I'm, mid 40s worrying about disappointing my dad who's been dead for 20 years. What?
Yeah.
So it was really like these big moments, and I'm working through all that, and that's a big reason why I started the Substack about a year ago. I finally decided I'm going to have a voice. I'm not going to pull back from it. I'm not going to shy away from it, even when it makes people angry, because my content often makes men on the internet angry and some women. I'm not going to pull away anymore. I'm going to put myself out there, my point of view, my belief in the world, my love for women's history, and my books. I'm going to put that out there and just let it be. And that process has completely changed my life.
I love that. Well, so how? How has it completely changed your life?
Because, okay, when you look at it, I always like to compare it to writing characters.
Okay.
If you are crafting a character and you know that the main motivation in this person's life, the main thing they care about, the thing that they protect and want more than anything, and you have them go in a different direction, no one's going to want to read that book.
Yeah.
And that's what I was
Yeah.
doing. I was crafting a world where my most important thing that I hold dear, which is my voice, I was allowing it to get squashed. I was allowing my parents' voice from the time I was a kid to still dictate my life at 45. And so reconnecting with the ability not just to use my voice, but to me, the most power in the whole world is being able to let those words land and walk away, no matter what anyone says or does. And I don't
Mm.
backtrack and I don't soften. And this was a long time coming. And my husband is incredible at just saying whatever he wants to say. And he really like has helped me get there. I'm not there, but I'm working on it. And not to go too far into a tangent, but I've been honest on social media about this that um, a couple of years ago, well, for years, probably since I had my first kid, so she's 12. So 12 years now, I have had a chronic cough. And it gets so intense that sometimes I can't leave the house because it's just so bad. And I've gone through doctors and no one really could figure it out. And finally, an allergist sat me down and said, I mean, it just blew my mind. He like put his clipboard down and he rolled over in his little chair and he looked at me and he said, do you feel like you have had your voice stifled for the
It's
entirety of your
exactly where
life?
my brain went. Psychosomatic
And I just was like,
and
instant,
subconscious. Mhm.
instant tears, but also kind of joy at the same time that someone finally kind of saw me. And he said, kids especially who live in an environment where their voice is pushed down, stifled, and you are taught to shut it down, can develop into a laryngeal or whatever disorder. And I created a pathway in my brain that voice was dangerous.
Oh
Is
my
that
god.
insane?
No, because I'm a certified NLP neuro linguistic programming practitioner.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I help people with via hypnotherapy and time techniques and other NLP tools to release the subconscious patterning that allows it. So if
Okay,
you're
well,
work
I
if
need to have a session with you
let's do
then
a
because,
session. I would
like,
love to. I knew instantly. The other thing that it made me think of is I was curious. I wonder if you know, do you know your human design is?
no.
So I'd love to pull your human design too. So human design is a modern scientific self-discovery system based on several different ancient sciences and philosophies: the Chinese I Ching,
I
Kabbalah,
love all that stuff.
Buddhism, quantum physics, chakra system, and astrology. Yeah, you'll love it. I know you
Okay.
well enough to know that you'll love it. But it made me think that you probably have a defined throat. And if I had to guess, I would guess you're a manifester, but we'll have to find out about that. Um, and a defined throat that's blocked. And you
Mhm.
clearly have a defined throat. Like you clearly have something to say out loud
Yes.
that draws people in. Uh, and that helps other people create. That's something I think is so brilliant about artists across the board. But for me, because I'm such an avid reader, I think authors, the ability to read something that somebody else wrote that allows you to put voice to something that you didn't know was powerful for you until that
Mhm.
moment. Like what a cool gift. So it did, I knew as soon as you were telling the story, the cough. And it's funny because I get on I always have water. I've already sipped on it probably 3 times, but
Mhm.
whenever I go in to do a podcast recording, I catch myself clearing my throat a lot and needing water a lot, and I think it's a very similar thing, except I'm super outspoken, and I think I always have been. And thankfully, my mother, who raised me as a single mother, like, really never told me to shut up. She was
Love it.
like, "Just let me go." But, I do think there's something about, and I know that that's what it is, like, I'm, like, muting, taking water, like, constantly, like, "Why am I feeling like I shouldn't use my voice right now?"
Yes.
Um, so I love that for
It's kind of
you.
deep. I think it's deep in a lot
It's
of
deep.
us, especially women. And I think looking back when I was a kid, writing became a safe way to use my voice onto a page silently where other people couldn't tell me I was wrong.
Yes, that makes so much sense. Okay, well, so I want to know this book that was deeply hidden 15 years on your hard drive.
Yeah,
Did that become something you published?
it did. It was my first self-published book. It is no longer in print because it just doesn't. It was a historical thriller. It doesn't really match the direction that I'm going now.
Okay.
It was an amazing experience and learning, but my first two, I was still trying to find my voice. And I think most
Yeah.
authors will tell you, their first few are always, not always, sorry, first few are
Often.
frequently like a little like, oh, okay, but I kind of went this direction. It doesn't really match my vibe anymore. So,
I love that. Now, so how many books total have you published?
well, if you count those two,
Yeah, count them.
three,
Like,
four,
yeah.
five, six, seven, eight, nine.
That in let me just make sure I'm in the last 10 years, you've published 9 books.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I
What
write fast. And
I,
I also, okay, so I write my rough draft very fast because my mind works very fast.
down and dirty draft.
Down
Yeah.
and dirty draft. It takes me 4 months every time to do my rough draft without fail. But my editing phase is very long, sometimes years, but I'm always working on something. It's always cycling through. I've got two projects I'm writing right now. One has a published date, the other one is open ended. I don't know what's going to happen with it. So I have to just work fast to keep my brain happy.
I think it's so interesting that you're able to be working on 2 different book projects at the same time, because I've interviewed a lot of authors on my actual podcast, Was It Chance? And what I consistently hear is like, this is my whole life revolves around this book. And so your
Yeah.
ability to, so maybe I'm wrong, maybe you're a manifesting generator. We'll have to see, we'll have to pull that human design
Okay.
chart.
I'm
Um,
interested.
but like where you can focus on 2. And I'm also wondering, maybe is it like when you feel burnt out on one, okay, I'm gonna move over to the other? Is there a component
No.
there? No.
No, I'm manic. I mean, my brain cannot shut off. It really comes down to me having just really extreme anxiety and my brain needing
Oh,
somewhere to put it.
okay.
But it's not ideal to go back and forth between two. I don't like it. But frequently, especially when I do work with two separate publishers, and so I do have different deadlines, and I have so many projects I want to write that I need to get them out. And sometimes I just get a little rough draft out just so I can get out of my brain and then let it sit for a while. And so I'm always kind of
Mm.
bouncing around. I kind of like that um, because I can get obsessive about a project and it can take over my life. So I kind of need that little side project to pull me out.
That makes sense. So, what is your research phase like? because you're writing historical fiction, there's a lot of research involved.
There's a lot. I always I always read for a month or, well, let's say about a month before I start. I'm continually listening to audiobooks, frequently like nonfiction audiobooks that I can listen to on my walks where I just get like big picture items of whatever time I'm writing in. So I can
Okay.
understand kind of the politics of the time and the world and what people were wearing and that kind of thing. So I love memoirs when I can
That's good.
find them for that time. And then I usually start a drive folder where I throw in everything I can find on the internet, and different documents. And then while I write, again, this is not ideal, but I usually have a dozen tabs open while I write so I can bounce over real quick and just double check a
Yeah,
date or whatever.
yeah, that
So
would
it's
be good.
ongoing. And then usually after I'm done, before I start my edits, I'll do another kind of round of research just to kind of see if there's anything else that I can work into that story. So it's ongoing.
I love that. So I have written nonfiction books. I haven't written fiction books, and I want to. I want to, but I'm super intimidated by it. And when I read a really good book like yours, I go, man, my brain. The way you tie you authors, every collective you, right? The way people tie in all the different things, and then they come back, and then remembering all the. I just don't know that I got it in me, man.
I will tell you, Daughter of the King went through no less than 7 or 8 full revisions. I'm talking, I picked that thing apart and put it back together. I don't know how many times. It was only my second book, so I was learning, and it got reworked and reworked. And at one point, I just would sit there and cry. I'd be like, I don't know what else to do with this. And I'd take a break and I'd come back and I'd edit again. So it's just this labor of love that you keep coming back
Mm,
to. And every time you come back, you get a different view on it and you rework it. So it's just a matter of committing the time. That's all.
yeah, no, I get that. Now this is a 3-book series. Did you know it was going to be a 3-book series?
I wanted it to be, but I didn't plan it that way. I knew
Okay.
that there was more of a story that I wanted to tell. And so that book is still my best-selling book. And the day after it published, we did so well that my publisher emailed and was like, "Book two? Have you
I
started it
love
yet?"
that.
And I was
That's
like,
amazing.
I guess I'll start it. And I will tell you, book 2 and 3 were so fun to write. One was, it was, I told you, a struggle in a lot of ways. I'm still learning and to work really hard at it. Whereas book 2 and 3 were just really fun and adventurous, especially two because it goes to Paris, during the 17th century, and there's a
I
like
love Paris.
gritty underbelly and some of the witchcraft and stuff that was happening. It was all historically documented. That was fun to dive into. So I knew I wanted it to be a series. I just hadn't really planned it until the first one did well, and my publisher said, "All right, what do you got? Because we want another one."
I think that's so super cool. And then are most of your books series or do you have
No,
standalones? They're
all of them are
standalones.
standalones except for the Define the Crown. I would like to do another series at some point, but the story has to feel right for you to be able to justify multiple books off of it. This felt very epic and big, and so it was a perfect fit for a trilogy. I'll get back there. I'll get back to another series someday.
Well, I'll be honest, as a reader, I am not a huge fan of a series. 3 books is okay, but a big series, I don't like a cliffhanger. It's another reason I don't particularly like fantasy.
Yeah,
And I do think that Daughter of a King stands alone. I liked it enough that I was like, oh, I have to know what happens next. But you could just read that and you would have
yeah,
a complete experience.
yes.
But these fucking fantasy cliffhangers, man, they drive me insane.
I
I don't
don't.
like it.
I don't do that either. I completely respect fantasy authors and all of the work that they put in.
I do
But
too.
yeah, I high fantasy is just hard for me to really dive into sometimes. I like the light fantasy is really, yeah, like you said, where it's just kind of, you know, it's still real world. If you put a map in front of me, I'm already intimidated. And a lot of the fantasy books are like 800, 900 pages, and that also intimidates me.
Yeah, no. 500 pages is probably about as much as I really will eagerly
Same,
pick up.
same.
Um, Kate Quinn's
I was just gonna say
books,
Kate Quinn's the only one that I read long books with.
The
Yeah,
Rose
she's
Code.
great.
I actually sent it to my daughter. My daughter's a film and history double major at the University of Washington. And she goes, I got rid of TikTok because I want to read more.
Mm.
And so I sent her some books, and The Rose Code was one of them. She's like, I wasn't sure I was going to like it, but I actually really loved it. And because, well, because you have kids, my youngest is 12 and my oldest is 21. She, in general, just wants to naturally reject anything that I suggest, like
Yeah.
by default.
Yeah.
But it turns out I have really good book taste. So she's like, it was actually really, really good. And she's like, I read
Nice.
it, and she's a full time college student and she works 30 hours a week. She's like, I read it in 2 weeks, which is pretty good because that is a long ass book,
Yeah.
The Rose Code, but that's really
Yeah.
funny. Uh, do you have a favorite of all of your books? Like,
The Secret Courtesan that just came out is I really love it. It's because it feels like me. It feels like my voice that I've worked so hard to find.
mm,
And that's a big
hmm
part of it is I've gone through this big growth internally. And so being able to find that voice and then put a book out without caring, without thinking about what people are going to think, would just
it's
do it, you know?
amazing.
So that I love, love, love. I will always have a very soft spot for a little book that no one really knows about called Chasing Eleanor. And that book I poured my whole heart into. I talk about it's basically set in the Great Depression, and it's an orphan who wants to put her family back together, and she believes that Eleanor Roosevelt can help her do that. So it's my love for Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh,
It's set in the town that I live in, Bend, Oregon, because Eleanor Roosevelt came here, and so it kind of starts there. And it really details like to grow up with a mentally ill parent. And so I put everything emotionally in my life into that book. I'm really proud of it.
I love that. I'm gonna have to check them all out. My TBR is almost 400 books long, so it gets a little tricky. But and I'm a mood reader because so I'll have a
Same.
plan, and then that plan just goes out the window when somebody says, "But have you read this book?" And then I'm like, "Well, no. Let me
You got
get
to
it from
follow
the
how you
library."
feel, really. Yeah.
Right now. Now, do are any of your books also audiobooks? I should know this, but I don't
Um,
actually.
I believe I believe all of them are. I'm thinking I believe they all are.
Okay, so talk to me about it. I apologize. I don't know why I assumed that you were, maybe because I just saw you out hustling to talk about your books that you had indie
Maybe.
published. And then you just, not that trad authors don't have to do that, but they just don't do it the same way. I don't think with the
Sure.
same fever that indie publishers do. Talk to us about getting this publication deal and what it was like to work with small press. If you have any advice to people, and
Mhm.
then and yeah, like how does an audiobook come out of that? What's that process?
Okay. The one thing I wish readers knew is how hard it is to get an audiobook as an author. I don't know why. I
I
hate that
believe
it's that
you.
hard. I have done them not read them myself, but I have paid myself, um, found an audiobook narrator and paid them to do it. It's not always available to us unless you are with the big five. So with the same small press for since Daughter of the King. And it's been a great experience. They're great. It's just they're just limited in they don't they don't house narrators. And so I have gotten offers from other companies to narrate. Like they gave me an offer for Chasing Eleanor and they did a beautiful job with it. Other times we go out, the press will go out and try to find a narrator. It's just they don't have the money to upfront it. And it's just a really hard challenge.
Yeah.
The Secret Courtesan, I have a friend who's a fantastic audiobook narrator, so I hired her to do it. And you're always hoping that someone picks you up, but if they don't, it's kind of on us to make it
Correct.
happen. It's just a huge challenge, and it makes me sad because I want to be able to offer audiobooks to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I listen to probably 2 to 1 audiobooks to a book in my hand. And I do
Mhm.
like to have a book in my hand. What I have noticed in the last year is there are certain types of book that I cannot listen to. I cannot listen to
Mm.
lit fic, straight lit fic. Like some. I could do Frederick. I did my friend's That worked. What did I do? Oh, the Rachel incident. Like there are some, but they've got to also have a little bit of a humor, of an edge to them, because
Yeah.
audiobooks are a full body experience. And
Yes.
I think lit fit books are often read sort of emotionless. Like they take themselves very seriously. Like I listened to Heart the Lover and I was not into it. But I
Yeah.
might have liked it if I'd read it. Right. But your stories are so passionate. I think they would make for great audiobooks, but a narrator matters. For
It
example,
does.
I'm 100% on the heated rivalry train. Like, let's go. Right. And the narrator for the first three books is so bad that you cannot listen to them.
Interesting. Yeah,
It's
and
awful.
it can change your experience of a book. I prefer to do memoir on audiobook, especially if it's read by the author. I love that because it has that extra layer of emotion.
Absolutely.
Nonfiction is actually kind of hard for me on audiobook. I do it because time wise,
Yeah.
I kind of have to. But same, it's just a little kind of monotonous sometimes. But even in fiction, you can get ones who are a little more robotic and then ones who are a little more animated and can totally make or break the experience.
It does. It makes a huge difference. But like I have heard, I read Project Hail Mary. I read the actual book, but I've heard the audiobook is a full cinematic in your ear experience. And I
Mhm.
felt that way. I listened to Atmosphere and
I
it
did
was
too. I listened to
right.
Atmosphere.
And the double narrators, and oh my God, it was so good. And while I think it also is probably great to just pick it
It's
up and
good.
read it, it was this big experience. So I'm
It
learning that there are
was.
certain things that I really like listening to, and some books are better. I'll give you another example. I think the worst book I've ever read, ever, and I get a lot of hate on TikTok for this, is oh, what the fuck is now the name of the book? Because I blocked it
You
out.
blocked it out. Yeah.
Everyone talks about it. Oh, now it's gonna drive me
Is it
crazy.
fantasy?
No, it's dark romance.
Dark
Neve
romance.
Nessa something.
Oh,
I will know it. Now I'm embarrassed with myself because I just actually somebody just said, "What's the worst?" Now it's going to drive me crazy. Well, anyway, it's awful, but people loved it. But the audiobook they loved because the audiobook was super sexy, but it was the worst writing. Like I
mm,
laughed this through this very intense book. The name is going to come to me. Sh- she's got like a serial killer fantasy, and then a
I don't know
serial
what that is.
killer kind of no lights out, lights out.
Oh, I didn't read.
Don't
I
read it.
avoid I avoid TikTok trending books for the most part. I did get into Colleen Hoover though when they were talking about it. I was like, I'm gonna pick her up and see. And I actually thought I enjoyed her books. But
You enjoyed a book. I
for
haven't
the
picked her
most
books up.
part, I don't even go there. There are so many amazing books that aren't like marketable or make a great hook for social that like
Yeah.
I want to live there. I want to live in the book that I really connect with and love.
Yes, me too. Well, I take my life in my hands every time I say this is, and it really was. The writing was the worst writing I have ever read any time ever. And this book has made a lot of money, but I like laughed all the way through it because the writing was so bad. So
Oh
people get
no.
really bent. I know that's so mean. It's so mean because I know that it's hard even to write a bad book. I know that it's hard.
Hey, you
Okay,
know
well,
what? We know as authors, we know that some people are going to love our stuff and some people are going to hate it. You just got to let people have their opinions, you know?
it's true. It's true. But I am a writing snob. I can read trash. And by trash, I mean like spicy romance or
Smutty stuff.
throwaway,
Yeah.
smutty stuff, things that aren't teaching you anything. But it still, for me, has to be well written. I need to be
Yeah.
able to actually buy this story because it's well written. And if it's not, that's where things go a little dicey for me.
Hmm.
Um, Two more questions. One is, how did you end up getting your publisher deal? What was that pitch process like for you? And the other is, if you're willing, I didn't prep you on this. Are you making money on your books? Because I have so many people who are like, what's considered good for an author who doesn't have a big trad publisher and getting deals?
Okay. So the first question, I did try to go traditional. I tried to do the query route. It was right around the time that COVID hit, maybe a little bit before. And there was a rush of everyone wanting to be an author. It was hard. I got requests, but no offers. And I really just wanted to get this book out. Um, okay, cough drop because
I know. We got
as
to clear that throat, my friend. We're going to do it.
yeah, it just happens when I talk a lot. So woo. Um, but so I started looking at small presses, and I looked at my author friends and what they were doing, and they had some great presses that they worked with. So I kind of went there. Still kind of holding on to the dream of traditional and the big five, but it just didn't really work out. And you have to understand, this book is not like other historical fiction books. It's just it's
No.
at a time period, and it's that people aren't really writing about religious themes. People aren't really writing about,
Yeah.
I'm not writing a World War II epic that was really common at the time. So it's a hard sell to get people to understand where the audience would be for this book. Um, so
Take a moment. You're okay. Do you need a drink of
I'm
water?
no, I'm fine. Kick in. But you see how annoying this is, right?
No,
Um,
I get it.
yeah, but so the small press actually gave me an R&R, means a revise and resubmit. So they came back and said, "We really love this premise. We love what you have here, but it needs a little bit of work." And they gave me some instruction. And I was like, "Okay, I can do this." And they gave the instruction they gave me. I was like, I see exactly what they're saying. And I was like, fresh eyes. And I was so energized to go back in and make the changes because it felt right. It's one thing if you are and you're like, it's not really the book I'm trying to write. This felt like they could see the vision. And I was like, yes, let's do this. So I worked with a couple author friends, reworked it, resubmitted it. And then it was like a week before Christmas. I woke up in the morning, there was an email, and I was like, oh my gosh, and it's been great since then. I like the small press route because there's a lot of freedom there. They let me
Nice.
explore genre. They let me go into the magical realm. They really support my voice, which is a big deal to me. Um,
Yeah.
in the in full honesty, I have spent all of these years still trying to get a contract with the big five, and it just has never worked out. I've come close, I don't know how many times, but it's always comes down to, can they sell it? And I am a Enneagram 4, and if I can't do it differently, I don't want to do it.
I feel that. I'm not an Enneagram 4, but I feel that. I'm
Yeah,
not following
I
anybody
want to
else's
find
plan.
something like a different. I don't want to, not saying that other people are writing the same books because they're not at all. But trad publishing frequently wants to find a slightly different version of the same proven thing that sells. And I get it. It's a business.
Yes.
Um, so I might still query the one that I'm finishing up right now. I don't know. I'm keeping open to anything that happens, but I will
Mm,
say this big growth that I've had of letting go of what people think of me and finding my own voice and letting it just be what it is, that I of the belief that I had to have a trad deal to be legit. I stopped holding these gatekeepers' opinion of
yeah.
my work as the ultimate, gold
Heck
standard.
yeah.
So I now every day I write 7 days a week. And it is for me because I love the process and I love writing. That's why I do what I do. And the outcome is just going to be what it is. I can't change that. And it's a great place to be because I feel like if my books land somewhere and they get into people's hands, I'm good with it. You know,
Yeah.
um, money wise, it would be great to get in advance and make some more money. I do make money on my books. I am at the place where I still put a big portion of that back into marketing.
Makes sense.
So I make money, but not enough to like leave my day job or, live Kate Quinn's life that I would like to live one day. But yeah,
I don't know anything about Kate Quinn. I have queried her to interview her on our podcast several times and they don't respond, which is a bit of a
she's pretty
turnoff. You
big. She's pretty busy.
I know, but I feel like they could at least like be like, not right now. She doesn't want to. She doesn't like your show. I don't know,
I know.
something. But I don't know anything
Um,
about like her actual life. I don't know anything about it. So
she's got a great I don't know, she seems really unaffected by her level of,
Oh,
success.
that's cool.
She still talks about her insecurities about putting a book out and how she feels like, do I ever really get this thing down? Like, it's just very relatable. But full enough that she does her book tours when she needs to do that. She has a lot of readers and she gets to just explore the books that she wants to explore.
Yeah.
Her next one that is magical realism is actually on my nightstand. I'm starting it this week.
It just
Um,
came in at the library for me, so I'm going to
I'm
pick it up
very
today.
excited about it. So yes, so I think she's great.
That's actually an interesting topic. I know we need to wrap up, but she's getting that book is not getting the love that I think Kate Quinn's books normally get. And I
Oh
think it's
really?
simply because it's a genre. They're saying, like, oh, she's not doing magical realism well or right. And I don't know,
Oh
I reserve interest, but I think it might simply be that it's a genre switch and the historical fiction folks don't know what to make of it. And I'll attribute a similar concept in my book club, and I love my book club people. Um, one of our members, she and I became friends because we're red, white, and royal blue fans.
oh
And she's a super like M romance is easy for her. But we recently read lesbian romance and she
mhm.
struggled with it. She's like, oh, this is, I don't, and I'm like, what, why is that different for you than men? And so same concept, like when you're used to one type of book or one type of story, it is
Yeah.
sometimes really difficult to, especially with an author, to be open-minded about differences.
Yes, and I will say that her book, The Briar Club,
I loved it.
I struggled with it.
Did you?
Yeah, because the reason I love her books is they're high action. They're like
They are.
badass women spies from World War II. And the Briar Club was just this tight, like great writing. She's a fantastic writer. But I was like, I just didn't leave it with the same like yes like feeling like I normally do when I finish her books. So I can
Interesting.
totally understand that. But I'm actually writing a magical realism book, the next one, and still, of course, based in badass women in history. I'm actually writing two magical realism books, so I'm really interested to read Astral Library and see how she does it.
I can't wait. I'm super excited for you. I'm super excited for the books you have coming up. And I just am really glad to be reconnected with you in general. I
Me
think that
too.
your tops these knees for
I
sure.
love it. I'm just so glad you reached out, and all these years and across platforms. Like we were following each other on Threads for a while before you left Threads, and like
Yeah.
all the different platforms. And so here we are finally on Substack hanging out. I
Meant
love
to
it.
be. I love it too. Thank you so much. And you guys, you got a lot of books to choose from Carrie's catalog. But I got to tell you, I really did love Daughter of the King,
Thank you.
and I haven't read these two yet, but I'm going to. I can't wait to see what happens. I don't need James to die anymore, so there's that because she doesn't care anymore. So
I
I don't
will
want to
say
ruin
there is
anything.
a through line with him that you might be interested to read. So
I know. I can't wait. I can't wait. I mean, I think I might be okay either way if he does or if he doesn't. But I don't feel like that's the key. And that was why I don't want to blow anything for people who haven't read it. But that was the catalyst. I wanted more for her, and I felt like he was in the way of her more. And
100%.
and so I was like, well, he's just got to go then. We got to get rid of him. But you found a way around it. It's beautiful work. Carrie, thank you so much for spending time with me and with the 23 folks who came to join us.
Thank you.
Happy
Yeah,
writing,
thank you,
and
everybody.
I'll see you soon. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.